Welcome everyone. Welcome back to another Sales Hacker Live event. We really appreciate you choosing to spend this time with us. So thank you so much for joining. If this is your first time, incredible first choice. We have an expert group of folks to talk about everything, all things video in your sales cycle. So hyper-personalized videos in your prospecting, to running impactful discoveries and demos, to how to nail the follow-up. They're covering it all and how to effectively incorporate video along the way. So we're going to give folks just a few more minutes to roll in. I'm super excited to learn from these folks today. And we want to hear from you. So let us know that you're here in the chat. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Share your LinkedIn link if you want. Make sure that your chat is set to everyone, not just hosts and panelists. That way everyone can see what you put in there. And if you've got a question during this session, go ahead and throw it in the Q&A. We love sessions where the audience is engaged and interacting, getting the most out of being here live. So thank you to all 72 of you who are here so far. I'm really excited to dive in. So your host is Chad Lakin, a VP North America at Schutza. He's going to be moderating, pulling the questions in, making this a lot of fun. So Chad, thank you. I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce yourself, the topic, and the really awesome guest that we have here today.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Sam. We're going to have a lot of fun today, guys. So thanks for tuning in. I love seeing where all these people are coming from. The Space Coast, Lyle, excellent. That sounds like a lot of fun. We got Bend, Oregon, Atlanta. This is great. And I just encourage you guys, use chat today. If you have any questions along the way, throw them in there. We'll try to get to them as we go through what we're going to discuss today, which is really the power of video throughout the sales process. And I'm absolutely stoked to be joined by Dave Kennett and Melissa Murillo. Guys, why don't you introduce yourself? Dave, why don't you kick us off?
Sure. Thanks, Chad. Hey, everyone. Really looking forward to having our discussion today. I'm Dave Kennett, CEO and founder of a company called Replays. Replays reviews. We're a video-first company, which is probably why we're on this today. We actually review sales calls by account executives and SDRs, as well as customer success calls that are recorded for specifically in the SaaS space. And then our team of coaches gives video feedback back. I mean, we also do live Zoom calls and stuff like that, but very much video first. So I'm looking forward to adding any expertise I can or answering any questions around when, we've reviewed thousands of sales calls and what we've seen to be some of the most impactful tips and tricks when it comes to use of video.
I love it. Thanks, Dave. I'm excited to hear what you can contribute in that sort of space as well. Melissa, how about yourself?
Hi, my name is Melissa Murillo. I'm the head of global business development at Ubic. So we work with companies all over the world in the retail fashion space. We are a SaaS platform that really empowers and enables frontline teams. We do a lot of account-based marketing. So we're reaching out to these large organizations, and there's so much noise coming through day in and day out that we really have to do something to stand out from that. And video is one way that our team is able to break through that noise and really reach their target audience.
It's interesting, Melissa, as far as that whole ABM space and just how important it's becoming over the past few years, where the customer is really demanding that personalized experience, aren't they? They're like, show me some care, show me some focus as well, which is incredible when you look at the way that technology can play a part in that. So excited to hear your comments on that as well. Well, guys, let's kick into, why is video important? Why should we really care about this? And I know everyone loves some good stats. Every good webinar starts off with some stats. So a couple of high-level ones for everyone joining us today. I'm sure you guys have heard this. 85% of the internet is video content, right? Traffic is video content. I don't know if that's just my Netflix account that they're tracking, but I think we can all agree video is ubiquitous with the internet. What's really interesting, in just tying into what Melissa said as well, that personalization aspect of what we're doing. Personalized content converts 202% better and has a 20 times better ROI. When we think about retention and understanding, people retain 95% of content when it's presented in video, compared to 10% in text. And so again, we know that this is how people want to consume content, but it's also something that makes it more memorable. When we think about the whole decision-making process, we're talking about sales on the webinar today. And so video was part of the decision-making process for 8 out of 10 people. So whenever we're thinking about how are customers learning about us, how are they stepping through these different stages, they're wanting to consume video as part of that. But Dave and Melissa, I'd love to throw it over to you. What have you kind of seen out there, your experience in the space when we think about customer interaction and where you've had success with video content?
Sure. So some of the ways that my team has leveraged it is really, trying to get that foot in the door when they're not getting responses. We do build it in as part of our cadences, but I do encourage the more creative, the better. We actually just ran a contest with our global team to see who could come up with the best video. And the winner actually went on site, had his Ubic apparel on, and spoke to exactly how our product could help as he's standing in front of their company, pointing out the different areas. And it worked. He was able to get a meeting and have that conversation. So, the more they can do to stand out, the better. Depending on marketing collaboration, sometimes they'll build custom landing pages that you can use to speak in front of, or even using their own LinkedIn pages, their business pages, to create that customized approach and really speak to them where they are. We've really seen a lot of success with that.
I love that. Dave, how about you?
Well, certainly we've used it successfully for outreach, but the more non-obvious way is when we're further down the stage sales cycle wise, and we're at, we've got a pricing quote and we've already presented to them via Zoom with our video on. And I say it like that because it boggles me that there's still sales reps out there who don't turn their video on when they're on sales calls. But let's talk about that separately. So anyway, what we do is if we have, let's say, a more complex pricing presentation we've done, and we get a question from the prospect, we'll just jump on, share screen, and do a quick video on walking them through our answer. What we're trying to do here is streamline the process for them. We don't want to have to book a half-hour call out of their schedule to do a 10-minute discussion on pricing if it's not needed. We rather save their critical time for moving a decision forward, right? And so we use it to make it so you don't have to write a 3-page email to answer their question. That's one of the ways. That's maybe not as obvious a use case, but we found it helps connect with the prospect, and they appreciate the fact that you're giving more color and context. They don't have to read a long email.
I think that's an excellent way to use video. We do something very similar here, Dave. We created a product quite a few months ago that really was around that sort of screen capture and collaboration. And the cool thing about that is you're respecting your customer's time. So let's not worry about getting on a call. Let me just make you a quick video. You consume it when you've got time. The information is really clear there as well. And then something that's shareable too, which we'll talk about in a minute. I think now is a great opportunity. Let's poll our audience today. I'd love to know who is using video right now as part of their sales process. I love this. And feel free to add why in the comments. Man, we're looking at like a 62%. Okay, here we go. We're almost even here. Well, this is interesting. This is going to be a fun conversation, everybody. I'd love to understand, why are people not feeling comfortable using video? What are some of those barriers as well? So you can throw those in the comments here. Because people are lazy, and if you do it, you will stand out. Sometimes people can be lazy. That is true. Thanks, Dan. Just starting out. Company isn't allowing it. Now, that's an interesting one. I'd love to hear more about that. Marilyn's struggling to get her team to use it. Yeah, we can talk about adoption as well. All right, Jay, you're using video as one step of a 15-step outreach cadence. And you can ping me separately if you want to talk about that and how to do it at scale. We were actually just talking about that earlier, about just some hacks around that as well. Older demographics still in industrial distribution, tough to get buy-in. Yep. A lot of times, to be honest, one of the hindrances that we see in our space around adoption is comfortability in front of camera. Now, as we look at the past couple of years, I think one of the upside is the fact that I'm just going to share these results real quick so you guys can see based on our poll, is that people really were forced to have to get comfortable in front of camera. We moved into a digital space as well. So we are seeing a lot more people kind of come to the table with being better in front of camera, but still when they're making these videos on a regular basis, we're really kind of holding their hand around how do you just have fun while you're doing it, so you are conveying your authentic self, and that comes down to practice. And we'll dive into some tips and tricks around that as well. This is fantastic, guys. Well, let's dive into really different stages of the customer journey and how you can use video to help push your customer through those funnels as well. So I'd love to understand, and maybe Dave, Melissa, you guys can kind of kick us off again. Melissa, how about with your use case? And you're talking about with your team, they're creating videos. You had a little bit of an incentive around that as well. At what stage of the customer journey were they using video?
So for my team specifically, it is very much top of funnel from the BDR approach. And, somebody put in the comments about, how do I increase adoption? Make it fun, incentivize. That's the best way I've found to really get that adoption. And also if you use some sort of sequencing tool, building it in, and it doesn't even have to be in scale, even if you're doing ABM, as long as you've got that step in there for them that says, make a video, just that reminder to put it out there. And with the contests, have fun with it, have a winner for who makes the most creative video, and maybe have one for you could make different categories, and then incentivize on the response rate. So not only how much they're using it, but how much they're getting responses. And if you've got larger teams, you can pit the teams against each other, make it competitive. But those are some ways I found to really increase engagement on the front end. To Dave's point, it can be used, on the AE side to convey questions. And I've also seen it really used very successfully on the customer success side as well. You've got customers that have questions, replying back via video. And then the last place we've seen it really successful is one, when people go dark, and then to re-engage. And that can be, just at the BD phase, that can be at the AE phase. You're trying to close that deal, they're not responding. A video can be a great little way to poke them, so to speak. So those are some really successful ways we've seen it throughout the sales cycle.
I love the ghosting use case. I think we've all been there. How do you elicit a response? And I think we were talking about this last week, right? Even with a customer of mine, where I'm like, this guy went dark. We had a really good rapport, and I made him a video. I'm like, you're making me nervous. I haven't heard from you in a few days. And this was just a video from my backyard. And I think there's an exchange that happens when you do something like that, even where you've made something for that person. I hate to say it, there's a little bit of a guilt thing that kind of happens. Like, you know what? I haven't replied to that person in weeks. And he got right back to me. He's like, I'm so sorry, man. I don't even think he watched the video, to be honest, but he just saw the effort that I made to get in touch with him. And he replies like, let's talk on Monday. So that is a great use case for video, especially at the ghosted stage. Dave, how about you guys? We talked about the proposal review stage, a little bit further down the customer journey there. Where else have you guys had success with video?
We've had success on the outbound side, for sure. It hasn't been our major focus. Like, I'm probably not the expert in that. But what I can share is, because we watch thousands of actual sales calls, I can share with you when we see reps that are actually on a call, I can share one or two tips there.
Yeah. Well, let's dive into that. I think that's a great segue, because really when we talk about messaging, and we can kind of tie this into our short outreach style videos and the power of personalization, but I think you'd have a lot of great tips around what do we do when we actually book that meeting and do our discovery calls. So I'd love for you to dive into that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the first, as I said earlier, is have your video on. It just perplexes me why folks don't do it. And pre-pandemic, there were certainly a lot more people that thought, no, it's just not something I'm into. But now I don't understand why they wouldn't. We do know empirically, because we've reviewed thousands of calls, that those reps that do have their video on will advance the deal more often than those that don't. We actually know that empirically, because we're a data company, and we track all that data. Now, The next thing I always hear from people, and I've saw a couple people comment here, and I'm glad they brought it up, is, well, my prospect, you don't understand my space I sell into. They would never turn their video on.
Mm.
That's okay. You don't have to see them. If they see you, that's like right now, you're getting a sense of a much more sense of me than if I had my video off and I was just sitting here talking like this, right? So
Yeah.
who cares if your prospect's video's off? The fact that you can see me as, let's say I'm the seller, there's just some magic that happens in the brain with the endorphins and the dopamine and all that when you actually can see someone's eyes. So that's number one. Number two, yes, of course, we'd love it if our prospect turned the camera on. Certainly do not ever ask them to turn it on. The overarching thing is we want our prospect to feel comfortable. It's how we make them feel, in addition to what we're walking them through. Having said that, we do have a little hack that works more often than not. And it's, oh, hey, I noticed that you're, oh, no, what I recommend is say, can you see me right now? And then often they'll say, oh, yeah, I can see you. You can see me, right? Because often they don't know their video's off.
Mm.
And if they're like, oh, no, bad hair day, or hey, I've got Zoom fatigue, it's like, oh, hey, cool, I respect that. And by the way, I really do respect that. Like folks that don't want to turn their video on, like, good on them if they're prospects. For you sellers out there, it's your job to have your video on. The other thing I would say, and here's a common one that reps don't think are a big deal, but it actually is. There's this sort of sense of security we get as soon as we share our screen, because suddenly we're just this little icon in the corner now. The spotlight's not on us. And we find that reps tend to do that too quickly and too frequently through their sales call. And we've empirically proven this as well. We've analyzed the stage progression and win rate data of those reps who frequently, A, start off a call without screen sharing, and B, when they're going through discovery, if they screen share to show a quick stat, they'll then take the screen share off so it's a more personalized experience. Yeah. And even during the demo, let's say we get into a deep talk during the demo. I'll take my demo off the screen and engage with you more. Those little nuances just make it that much more personal, which is your whole thesis here, that personalizing sales, personalizing communication leads to greater success. And anyway, those are some of the things that I really encourage folks to think through. But the last thing I just want to say, and then I'll be done here, is I saw one of the comments in here saying, my company doesn't let me share videos. That blows my mind. It's like, assuming that person's a sales rep, like they're paying you a bunch of money because you're a great communicator and you represent the brand well when you're on with a customer, but the marketing teams can, because I said marketing won't let us, marketing team's concerned it won't be on brand when somehow a video is on. Like that just sounds, and I don't, the person didn't put their company name on here, so that's why I'm so comfortable attacking. So much, if there was a brand on there attached to it, I maybe be. But you know what? I think I'd like to say that I would encourage executives at organizations like that to really empower their people more and realize that selling is a human experience. It's not just a cerebral experience.
Yeah, those are some really good points. And to that comment as well, depending on the type of video they won't let you share. I have come across some companies where compliance can be a real issue, especially in the financial sector. So when we talk about videos that are being sent out from the company email address, from that domain, where a rep can just kind of make whatever video, I have seen that actually be shut down. And so part of what we've created is more, I guess, templated and scripted style videos where compliance can actually sign off on it. And so it is representing the brand well. As far as like not letting you share video on conference calls like this or video calls like this, I agree. I think there's just such a great trust and rapport that is built when you see that other person. And to your point, Dave, like even if the prospect has their camera off, that's totally fine. I think we've all done pitch calls where you're just seeing a bunch of initials on a screen and you're trying to stay engaged, knowing that they can see you, but you're playing to like a blank screen. So just encouraging you guys, keep it up. It does, to Dave's point, it makes a difference as far as conversion rates when you're thinking about sales. One of the comments that we dropped up here, Susan, you said, were these videos to C-level execs or other levels? I would assume that you're talking about with Melissa's campaign. Melissa, do you want to dive in there?
Sure. Yes. So we are reaching out to C-level executives, heads of department. We work with heads of L&D, head of operations, CEOs. So absolutely, we are tailoring these directly to the C-suite.
And I think what's interesting on that point too, don't ever be afraid of sending content like that to the C-suite. You might not get a response, but I guarantee you that's going to get pushed around the organization. And we kind of bank on that in our outreach practice, is that we will make it for C-suite or C-1, knowing that there's every chance that video could get passed along to someone else. Because generally what happens is you get that endorsement, hey guys, go check this out. This was really cool. Because it's in video format, they're basically not having to repitch it. They're just sharing it as well. So think about that when you are creating content. This is where analytics are really helpful too. So if you can see that viewership data on the back end of it as well, no matter what platform you're using, I find what's really helpful is obviously the number of views, but location data, which you can get quite easily as well. So if you've made a video for Steve at, Boeing, and Steve's based in Atlanta, Georgia, wherever he may be, but then you see a view there and a view in New York, and okay, you know that it's been passed around to multiple people potentially. So that's a good indication that you should be following up on that account. Jay, you mentioned some view times. 100% agree. If you can keep it sub 1 minute, you're golden. That sort of 45 seconds, a minute is a really good place to be thinking about when you're talking about video in that sort of outreach phase as well. A couple other things I just want to throw out there. When we think about video across the customer journey, a good place to kind of visualize this is like a bow tie funnel. I'm sure we're all kind of across what that is. So you can actually use different types of video content. Today we're talking about particularly personalized video content from a prospecting point of view, but even leveraging your marketing departments, thinking about those explainer videos at the awareness stage, even if you're making personalized videos, if you're thinking about social selling as a play for you as well. So how are you creating content on LinkedIn to create more awareness around your brand? And then you can push it down more into like how-to, the consideration phase as well. Platform demo videos can be really helpful as well. And when we get into that conversion stage, to Dave's point, proposal review videos. Makes it really fun, right? Let me walk through that proposal. If you got any questions, let me know. Makes it really clear. And again, shareable content that they can share with other stakeholders. And Melissa, you brought this up just to reiterate it as well. So post-conversion, the game's not over there, right? We still use video, right? We need to nurture and expand those accounts. So even thinking about your CS team creating personalized videos for their accounts, and that can be things like product updates. It can just be happy birthday or happy 4th of July, fun stuff like that. Again, just builds that human connection. And again, using screen capture applications for platform demos, answering questions, all that sort of stuff. It's a really easy way for people to consume content. So think about how you can use video at every touch point. And I think now is probably like a good place to jump into some how-tos around creating content. So why don't we talk briefly just around tips and tricks on creating good video, being a salesperson, for example. So Melissa, do you have anything to weigh in here on? I know I'm throwing you out into this, but as far as your team, did you notice anything where you having to correct anything to make sure that they're creating high quality videos?
Sure. So a couple of tips and tricks, really, to be personalized out of the gate. Use their first name. You want to grab their attention. What is it they say? The adult attention span is 8 seconds. Now, that doesn't mean that an adult can't pay attention to something for longer than 8 seconds. It just means if you're trying to break through the noise, you've got about 8 seconds to really grab their attention and stand out. So you really want to get to the point, or at least do something that's going to grab their attention in that first 8 seconds of your video. If you're going to go into a little bit of what your product does, try not to go into a full long pitch. You're really just trying to incite curiosity and generate a conversation. So again, the idea is you don't want to go into a full product pitch because you're going to lose the person on the other end of the video. You want to use their name. You want to incite curiosity and keep it short. And that's really where we've seen a lot of our success.
I think that's excellent. So you mentioned mentioning someone's name, right? This is really important, everybody, because I think we've all had generic videos sent to us, right? Where you're like, cool, you've used this video for 1,200 people. I feel very special now. But just taking that extra time and effort to create something for that individual is definitely going to give you guys ROI. So one of the tips we would suggest, even with our application Elevate, the way that we programmed it, is that it'll actually say the prospect's name at the beginning. Because, and I think someone mentioned like best practice around email prospecting, having that GIF sit in your email, it comes through, you see it, you see your name, immediately it's going to catch your attention. You go, okay, this is Melissa, great. She's made me a video and cool. The other factor is when we structure that GIF, we also want to cut to the human. So name comes up and then it's a human. So that it doesn't look like a mail merge style video, because again, there's technology out there. You want to show that the time and effort went into creating this for you. When you're thinking about scripting as well, personalizing that first, to Melissa's point, first few seconds of that video. Because again, I don't want to get a video from Melissa going, well, this is the video that she sends to every Chad she's prospecting to. So you want to find a little bit of a tidbit around that individual. Do your research, take some time, look on LinkedIn, have a look at, their annual reports. What are they focused on as a company? How do you make that relevant for that individual, right? So that as they're watching this, they're going, okay, I understand Melissa. I understand why she's reaching out. I understand the value that her company can bring, and maybe a little bit about the technology, because we do want to get their attention. And then lastly, just to finish it off, what's the call to action? You're not just reaching out just to say hi, right? You want that prospect to do something after watching that video. So that could be simply reply back to my email, or click the link below to add some time in my calendar, or I just wanted to give you this white paper that I thought you'd be interested in. So as you're structuring your messages, just think about that. And again, keeping it concise, 45 to 60 seconds is a sweet spot. Dave, anything you want to add to that, man?
Two things I would add. For sales leaders, as you're encouraging your teams to do this, you're going to find you've got some folks that are early adopters and have a high adoption rate, and others that don't. And as Chad alluded to earlier, often a lack of adoption is just being camera shy and people getting in their head going, well, this needs to be perfect. And I don't have time to sit here and make a perfect video. And what we've found is, we're going to say this a few times in our chat today, because we've just found it so important, is we're humans selling to humans. So it doesn't need to be perfect. If there's a couple ums and ahs, that's fine. And so I could see how people would think, gosh, I'm going to have to do 8 takes of this. Every time I do it, there's 8 takes. I'm just not going to bother. Get out of your own head and just trust yourself. That's one. The second is background. Certainly be cognizant of what's in the background. What are the do's and don'ts there? In my opinion, from what we've seen, it's certainly keep it. I guess the bar has changed a little bit over the last couple of years during the pandemic. It went from keep it very professional to, okay, button down professional isn't sort of the have to have. But there's a line, and you don't want to cross that line, right? So I think having the ironing board in the background with the clothes hanging off of it, no. I think having another person walking around in the room that's not a coworker, that's a no-no. It happens. I've seen ones where people are their partner's lying on the couch watching TV. So these are some of the things that I would say. I also see there's a ton of interesting questions around what happens when you hit your spam filter and what are good open rates. I'm not the person to ask for that, but Chad, you probably got some better insights.
I'm happy to talk to that too. I love this. I'm obsessed with what's spinning in Melissa's background. It's a child. It's a child on a merry-go-round, guys. That's exactly what's happening. Why don't you show everybody, Melissa, what that is? Just so the suspense is taken care of.
We did talk about this pre-show and had a little fun.
We did. I actually said back blur on or off, and we were afraid the fan would be too distracting.
It's a cool fan. It's a cool fan. I love the comment about backgrounds, though, because this is really important, too. So today's point, even when you're doing your discovery calls, right, you want to be in a professional setting. There's a lot of grace nowadays, but it doesn't mean that you don't have to put any effort into it. Someone mentioned, are musical instruments okay? Never. You should never ever have music. And I don't know if we were talking about this on a previous call, but one of the things, this comes up all the time. And so it's a little bit of a tangent, but when you are having that discovery call with a client and you've got a point of interest behind you, and people, I would say 60% of the calls I'm on, someone goes, oh, what you got there? Is that a PRS back there? And it's just a point of connection, right? It creates something that you can talk about that's not related to your product. And we've gone deep with some of these guys. You're just building relationships. So if there's something that's personal to you and it kind of sums you up, or it's a point of interest, but it's not too distracting, kind of gives you a little bit of interest in the background, do it. Go for it. So with Dave's background, he's got a passion for masonry. I understand that. And it makes a lot of sense. So,
how did you know? What was your...
I just see it. I just see it all over.
Yeah. That's so funny. So I have a question for you. Do you think this is real or not, Chad? Or have we talked about this before?
We haven't talked about it. I don't think it's I don't think it's a digital background, but I don't think it's real either.
Melissa?
I was actually wondering that. I'm going to say I don't think it's real.
What about everyone in the audience? I'll
Really
let you
good.
guys jump in, and then I'll tell you in a couple
Yeah,
minutes.
real or fake?
Our whole crew uses brick. Look at this. I love it. Real fake. So we got
Green
about
screen?
3/4 real. Okay, I'm gonna do. Look at this. I love it. Okay, I'm gonna do the big reveal here. This is actually just a piece of cloth that's on a projector screen that I've fastened on. But it's become part of our brand. I used to work in sort of startup area, Gastown here in Vancouver, older area where it was all brick. So when I went remote before the pandemic, actually, I got this. And now it's become a real thing at our company. Every single one of our 25 coaches has a virtual brick background that they've got there. I've got a question for everyone real quick. We reviewed a video the other day where there was a massive bar right behind the person. So I'm all with you, Chad, about having points of interest, right? Now, the team was split on whether it was appropriate to have this massive bar.
Like a bar?
Like
okay.
full on, like my personal, it would be their personal bar with, half bottles of booze. What does the audience think on that? And what do you guys think on that? I'm curious. I said, okay, you know what? Of all the, if it might turn some people off, what's the point, right? Like, may as well have something that's a little less for the amount of times that it's going to be interesting to someone. It might turn others off. So I don't know.
I'm in agreement with that. I think you're probably like a 50-50 split on it, right? So think about that when you're doing your backgrounds. The other note is you don't want it too distracting, right? So points of interest is great. One of the things that we teach our clients about, regardless of if they're creating video for sales or just doing talking head videos, for example, if you have a bookshelf behind you, which a lot of people do, and it's covered with books, then that can be actually distracting. It'd be too much stimulus for them. So you do want to create maybe a little bit more depth to it. I would say what not to do as well. Don't just have like a blank, like white wall behind you when you're shooting videos. This is relevant for shooting or like video calls, right? You want to have a little bit of depth. You want to have some interest too. So if you even look like this plant right here, I can't handle a real plant. I don't water it. We tried, it died. This is a fake plant, but that little bit of greenery adds just a bit of interest, a bit of depth, a bit of color. The guitars help. The light in the background creates a little bit of an effect too. So just put some time and effort into it as well. And it will help. People will notice. Know your audience, make it calming, pretty green plant, maybe a shelf. Yep. Andrea, I think that's a good point.
I agree.
Very good. So, hey, let's talk about some practical tips as well, just for you guys that are getting started with making video too. We talked about structuring your message, which is step number one, when it actually comes to shooting your content too. So background is definitely part of it. Find a nice background that you can shoot against. Natural light is a big part of it. Actually, I think at this point, I might share you guys a quick video that talks about natural lighting as well, and we'll actually tie it into an example, again, of how you can use video throughout the sales process. So I'm just going to share my screen real quick here. Okay. Hi, Dave and Melissa. Chad here with a Shootsta suggestion to help you simplify video. In this day and age, most cameras, including your phones, can capture really clean and high quality footage. The key is making sure there's enough light for your camera to do its best work. In darker environments, your camera has to digitally overcompensate for how little light there is, often resulting in a noisy, grainy looking image. So always use lots of natural light for the best results. Need more help simplifying video for your team or business? Shoot me any questions and I'd be more than happy to answer them. I look forward to chatting with you soon, but until then, take care. All right. That's kind of weird. It's kind of like I'm assisting myself teaching on a video. Very meta, very bizarre. But anyway, we want to kind of give you an example around lighting techniques. Before we dive into that, though, let's talk about that use case of a video like that as well. I was showing Dave and Melissa this earlier. So this is built using our app Elevate, but the idea behind this was I made it for Dave and Melissa. It's a personalized piece of content, but it is a little bit more thought leadership. There's a little bit more tips and tricks. And so when we think about other stages of using video at, something like this could be used at a direct email sort of stage. If I just want to nurture that client through the sales process, maybe I want an excuse to get in touch. And I was just thinking about, here's a quick tip, made it for Dave and Melissa. the other way that you can approach it too, when you think about video and the wider social selling aspect of it, I could take that template, that message, and actually make it more generic for LinkedIn. Hey, everybody on LinkedIn, just wanted to share with you another shoots to tip, and go into stuff like that as well. So this is how you can use some technology as well as just writing these scripts, making them adaptable for personalized outreach, as well as more wider scale one-to-many types of videos as well. But Dave, Melissa, any thoughts on that before we dive into the how-tos? Oh, you just muted, Dave.
I thought that was pretty slick. I have the same question that a couple other folks just asked. How easy was that to throw the branding in and stuff?
I feel like you're going to make me pitch our product.
It was teed up by 3 people in the audience.
Okay. Look, I'm passionate about this space, and I'm happy to talk about it too. And just know that this comes from a place of us using video ever since we started shoots to 6 years ago in Sydney, where we would make videos for all of our prospects, and we would have our editors edit them for them. So it's really powerful. We know how powerful it is. And we built some AI technology a couple of years ago, which basically how Elevate works with our clients. We create the scripts and the templates with you guys, the messaging we talked about, how we structure it all. We code it up where there is B-roll that comes in. So you saw the branding and the animation work and all that comes in. It's coded into the template. And then the AI is listening for those trigger phrases. So using voice recognition. So when I said certain things within that script, it would know to bring in the cutaway of the shoot stick hit and show all of that sort of stuff. So we have editors building that with our clients, and then we create that template, that script, and then all our clients need to do is basically select the template in their Shoots to Elevate app. They shoot the script. They can personalize it. They can change some of those words, all that fun stuff. They just shoot their talking head, and then the AI does all the post-production, compiles that video in about 5 minutes, and then they can send it out. So how long did it take me to shoot that video? End to end, between shooting it and sending it out, 8 minutes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's super fun. Super fun. Cool. Should we move into some tips and tricks around shooting? I always like to help people get more comfortable in front of camera as well. So if you guys have anything to add to this, I'll just dive into kind of things around lighting. We saw that video just now about making sure that you're using really natural light is a great tip. I'll show you kind of like ideally for me, if I was shooting a video, I'd shoot it this way, right? I've got my big window here. Natural light's going to give you that really even coverage here. The problem in this situation, you always need to work in the environment that you're in, is that this is my 6-year-old son's bedroom and his closet is right behind me. It's not the best background. So in that case, I'm opening up my windows. I'm getting a little bit more light on this side. And then I've got a simple setup at home. It's just a tripod here with a phone mount. And I've got a nice little panel light in here. And away you go. So when I'm making my videos, I'll tend to stand up. Personally, that's kind of what I like to do because I like to use my hands and kind of be a little bit more interactive when I'm communicating. I put my phone in there. I've got the LED light on top. Now, ring lights are a great thing to buy. I'm sure most of you guys have them. If you wear glasses, it can be a little bit challenging. Melissa, you're nodding. Looks like you got these crazy eyes because it all reflects in there. Yeah. You take your glasses off. I just feel weird without my glasses. I feel a little naked. So I use a panel light. There's lots of cheap options out there, guys. For $30, you can get a little gooseneck, phone mount, ring light, and you're good to go. So make sure you got that light coming on the front of your face. That's going to give you the best option. If you don't have a good place to shoot inside, I'd consider going outside as well. So you want to find, maybe it's a little bit more overcast. You don't want bright sun right in your face, but outside's a nice background. Find a nice little bit of greenery and shoot your videos there as well. Another thing to consider is audio too. So you don't need to go out and invest necessarily in a big microphone or anything like that. If you're shooting sales videos on your phone, you're going to be pretty close to that thing. And so it's going to sound pretty good. Find a quiet spot. For example, if I shoot in here with just using my phone audio, it's a little echoey. So that's something to consider. Opening the door can help, or you can invest in a couple little bits and pieces here. We use the Rode Go wireless mics. And so these are maybe $150. And so you can actually get an adapter to plug into your phone and have wireless audio as well. We talked about background. We talked about audio. We talked about lighting. When you're actually shooting your videos and you want to get a little bit more comfortable, here's what we would suggest. Do 20 videos that no one's ever going to see and just get over that kind of anxiety around creating content. Make sure that you smile as well. This is one of the things that we see most often than not is people, if they're reading a teleprompter, they're just kind of robotic. And really, if you smile more than you think you should, you're going to come across a lot more authentic and a lot more engaged, and just have fun and start making content. Anything else you guys want to add to that?
I think that covered it. That was great.
Awesome. We make a lot of videos, so I love talking about this stuff. I think we got like 5 minutes left, Sam. Is that right? Are we going for 6 hours on this one?
6 hours for sure.
Long
No,
form.
yeah, 5 minutes more is great whenever.
I love it. Well, I mean, guys, should we move into some Q&A?
Let's
All
do
right.
it.
All right. Sam, what's the best way to do this? Do they want to use chat? Should we have them use the Q&A section?
Yeah, Q&A is great, or we can see them coming through in the chat. I think we've got one so far in the Q&A from Mitchell Bell.
Okay.
If you want to, and if anyone else, go ahead and throw your questions in the Q&A, and chat will give them to the panel.
Awesome. Well, Mitchell, we'll kick off with you, buddy. Question of prospecting versus follow-up. Is video appropriate for enterprise, big ticket sales? I've got some thoughts. Dave and Melissa, what do you think?
Oh yeah, 100%. You know, my question is, if when we're selling an enterprise fit deal, we're still selling to humans. You're gonna hear me say that a bunch of times, right? And so why wouldn't you? It's not like these folks that might be a little bit more senior that you're reporting into or work for a little bit larger organization don't value human connection as much as someone that you're used to dealing with. So 1000%. As a number of folks in the audience have said in the chat today, though, you know, read your audience. So certainly what you know about a certain company's culture that you're selling into, or about the individual that you're getting to know, weave those data points into how you adapt your style on the video.
I think that's a really good point. Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, I absolutely agree 100%. Video is even more impactful, I think, with larger organizations sometimes, because it is the way to cut through the noise. These guys are getting hit with so many so many emails a day that anything we can do to stand out. And one thing, you know, there's different ways to send videos now too, and we kind of talked about this before we started. You know, one way we've seen that's highly underutilized is video through LinkedIn. You know, you're getting around the spam traps, you're getting past the gatekeepers, and you are getting directly to your prospects. So if you're not using video yet via LinkedIn, you're missing a great vehicle to reach them.
100%. I'm so glad you brought that up, because I know someone else was asking that question earlier as well. What about spam? Look, this is the reality of the situation. Anytime you put any sort of link in an email, depending on the security settings on the other end of it, there could be issues with spam. So it can be a little bit hit and miss. Here's how we work with our sales teams. You know, we want to do like a little bit of a double tap. So if we're thinking about, you know, creating sequences or one-off emails to that prospect, we send that to them. We also, on LinkedIn, we're obviously connecting with them, and we're DMing them the video as well. And so I will say that it's funny. It can be a little bit rep dependent as far as who gets success in what medium, but I do see a little bit more success on the LinkedIn side of things, because I think it does cut through the noise naturally for people, and they see that little prompt come up and they can see that link. Make sure that link is personalized for them as well. So for example, the way that we structure it pulls in some metadata, so it is going to say, "Hi, Melissa," as opposed to like random long URL. They're like, yeah, I'm not going to click on that. So that's one way to do it. The other thing that one of our reps had a lot of success with was the fact that they would send the videos out and then follow up with the call. They may not get a reply in the email, but when they follow up on the call, they're going, "Hey, I just wanted to follow up on that video that I sent you through. Oh, I didn't get a chance to watch it. I'll watch it now. I'm on the call." And so it prompted them, also gave them an excuse to give them a buzz as well. So just a couple of ways that you guys can try and try that out for the next little while. Curtis, you asked about low open rates with Vidyards. What can you do to increase those rates? Use the GIF. You put their name on a whiteboard to track them. Any other pro tips for prospecting open rates? What's all showing in the GIF with the Vidyard one? Is it just you with the whiteboard doing that? I will say, I love the Vidyard guys. Like, we've been friends for a long time. So, but I do think a lot of people do whiteboard videos. So my only question would be, is that become a thing now where it's adding to the noise? So what else can you do to be a little bit more creative? And so maybe ditch the whiteboard, maybe do something else. I can't think of anything fun off the top of my head, but Melissa, have you got an idea?
Well, I was going to say to that point, I've often seen it where people don't take the time to even look at what the GIF is that they're going to send, GIF, however you say it. But they just allow it to whatever the default is instead of really thinking about what is that image that's embedded going to look like. Because honestly, that can also, just like a subject line of an email, be the determining factor as to whether or not someone's going to click on it.
That's a really good point. Yeah. And when we talk about, again, reaching out to enterprise level companies, this is where you want to put care and effort into your videos. So do think about the background. You don't want something that's kind of sloppy. Think about what you're going to say as well before you create this content. Now, I will say with enterprise prospecting, these guys are looking for ways to sell too. You know, all of these companies at that sort of tier, enterprise tech companies, are trying to figure out ways to cut through the noise. So in the same boat as you guys. It was interesting. We actually did something with a large CRM company in the APAC region, and the challenge that they were facing was getting people just to reply to their cold emails and cold calls. This is one of the biggest companies in the world, right? So it makes you feel better that they're having issues. But the thing was, these are warm contacts, right? And so they've attended webinars, form submissions, all of that sort of stuff. But they were just cold calling, cold emailing. They're getting maybe like 10%, 15% reply rate, which is, I mean, not bad. I'm like, that's all right. But for them, they're like, this is, in COVID times, this is not okay. So we brought Elevate into the mix. We said, well, let's get your reps starting to make these one-to-one videos for all of these people that are in your kind of warm lead list. And they increased the reply rate to like 70%. Now, I think what that is, and we talked about, I think Dave, you mentioned it earlier, is like humans selling to humans, right? And so you want to be able to connect with someone. So you got a big tech company that's prospecting in there, and it's got a big brand to it, but it's a cold email. Doesn't feel very warm, doesn't feel very personalized. You put a face to it, it's like, oh, that person seemed nice. I'll jump on a call with them. So we are seeing success in that sort of space where people are building connection through video, and it's resulting in meetings booked as well. Anonymous attendee. Do you use video after the sale too? Absolutely. Like we talked about with nurturing that customer, expanding the opportunity, just creating great experiences. Enrique asked, should we quit bulk cold emails? Oh, what do you guys think?
Go ahead,
I
Melissa.
still think they can have their place in certain arenas. But as a whole, if you're really trying to get a response, it's definitely not as likely. So, you know, for things like invitations to an event, say we're going to be at an event and we want to reach out to everybody that's going to be attending and invite them to our booth. And say there's quite a few that maybe aren't the right ICP, but you still want to grab everyone's attention. That's an arena where I think the bulk email can be very, very useful, or a, you know, less personalized email, or event follow-ups or webinar follow-ups. Things like that can be used in a larger scale. But if you're really trying to spark a conversation and book a meeting, personalization is the only way to go.
I love it. And I'm happy to share. Or Dave, did you want to weigh in real quick on that?
Yeah, I would say bulk emails aren't dead. I think it's how you do them. Personalization, adding value, and part of a multi-channel strategy, using, you know, social channels, and not just email and phone.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't forget about the phone. I'll share with you guys quickly because Jay was asking about this as well. Can you please touch on how to personalize at scale? Meaning I would not be able to produce a high volume of, say, prospecting videos if I shoot them one at a time. Let's talk about what scale really means too, because I think you got a trade of effort and all this, right? So I can put an outreach sequence together and blast it out to 500 people, but what are the results am I going to get with the time and effort put into that? So like what Melissa was saying, you know, you're probably not going to get a lot. Everyone's kind of tired of all this sort of stuff. They understand how mail merge works and all this sort of stuff. How we structure things, the best of kind of both worlds, that we've found is when we're structuring an outreach sequence, and this may get a little nerdy for everybody, but we would structure that first step as actually a text-based email. Okay, there's personalization in it, but it's pretty brief, right? We're trying not to have links in it. We're just washing the list a little bit. At that next stage, we've got a manual task that gets triggered, which is make the video for the prospect. Now you're going to get those bounce backs, so your list is going to get a little bit more dwindled. Now what we're doing, and I think this is where that balance of scale versus personalization is, we tend to go more ABM style. to Melissa's point. So you can have crafting that message so that you're hitting 30, 40, 50 people at a company. That's how we're going after it. And then we would trigger that manual process, and then that message would be tailored for that company. We'd make 40 or 50 videos, and then we'd load that up into Outreach, and then we trigger the next sequence. Now, how do you use video throughout all of those stages? If we were making a video for every person at the 3 or 4 stages that incorporate video in our messaging, yeah, that would take forever, Jay. So we don't do that. We actually create the one video at the top. They see the rep, right? They see their name, which is fantastic. Maybe they don't reply. Some of those other videos, 2 or 3 videos, are going to be more value-based videos. So like what I showed you guys earlier, hey, this is just a great tip if you're making content. Oh, cool. That rep's not asking for anything. They're just helping me out. But I would make that video more generic. So I'd be like, hey there, I just want to get in touch and tell you about how to create, better videos with natural lighting. Because it's me, they saw me earlier, it still has the feeling of personalization, but I will use that video for all the emails that I send at that stage. So that's a little bit of a hack. I hope that helps you, Jay. So there's some ways that you can still make it feel personalized because it's the rep appearing in the content without having to create a video for every single stage. All right, I know we're at 51 past the hour. Sam, what do we do now? Can we keep rolling, or do we need to wrap it up?
We are getting close to time, but this has been incredible, and I want to leave space for any final thoughts too. But I just want to let everyone know that this has been recorded. We always get that question. We will be sending it out within 24 hours, so you can, if you missed something or want to go back and watch, you will have the ability. But thank you so much, Chad, for hosting, and to Dave and Melissa, and for all the wisdom shared. I really enjoyed learning. So is there any final comments or things we feel we missed before we wrap?
I know there's a few more questions there. I would just encourage everybody, connect up with us on LinkedIn. Like, we love this space, and if there's anything that we can do to help, I know we talked about, other bits and pieces here, especially in the prospecting space, what's worked well for some of our clients, what not to do. If you guys are just starting on this journey, please reach out so you can find us on LinkedIn. We're happy to answer any questions. But Melissa and Dave, over to you guys.
Well, this has been great. I've really enjoyed the questions and learning a lot from both you, Melissa, and you, Chad. So thank you. This has been fun.
And thank you, everyone, for the questions. This was awesome. I know I learned a lot, and I always appreciate Sales Hacker for putting these together. So thank you, Sam, for including me.
Well, thank you all. This has been incredible. Definitely connect with Chad, Dave, and Melissa on LinkedIn, and we'll see you all next time. Thank you, everyone.